Shelby County Schools presents Budget Talks.
Hi, and welcome to Budget Talks, a series of conversations featuring Shelby County School Board members, district leaders, and also county commissioners. The purpose is to discuss our 2018-2019 school year budget. This Budget Talk segment features School Board member Chris Caldwell and also County Commissioner Eddie Jones. Thank you both for being here today with us.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
I want to start because we were talking a little bit off camera, and you were sharing a little bit of how you became so involved and became advocates for education and children in particular. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, the district, as MCS, used to have a parent assembly. And so Eddie and I first met in that organization. He ended up being the president, and I was a parliamentarian. So we worked real closely together trying to help parents be better educated, better understand how to navigate the district and what resources were available. So we just hit it off. We both play basketball, and we played a lot of pickup basketball together, and so it just turned into a natural friendship. And then when he became chair of the budget committee for the county commission, and I'm chairman for the Audit and Budget and Finance Committee that oversees the budget process, we just marveled at the fact that through all that we ended up being able to work together to do something really good for the community and the students. That's
wonderful. Mr. Jones, and you have been serving in public service for a number of years, and it's such a good example for our community and other parents that are just as passionate for their children, that they could also be able to become public servants like both of you.
Yes, I pretty much started when my kids were in school, and they all went to a public school under MCS, now SCS, and I was very active in the PTA to start out, and so I sort of got drafted because the principal said, "You're always at the school, why don't you be a part of it?" And I was like, no, I really don't, but I did, and it started my path on community service, being active, fighting for the children and education, the parents, even the administrators and teachers at the schools, and went from PTA to parent assembly to multiple community boards out in the community, and that's just been a strong fight for me, being an advocate voice for all of those different groups.
And you both have touched a little bit on the role that you play both as a school board member and as a commissioner. Let's segue a little bit about the budget process, right? From your perspective, Mr. Caldwell, you're looking at it from representing all the constituents and the schools within your district. But Mr. Jones, I wanted to ask you, from your perspective and from your fellow commissioners, it's a little bit different in the sense that you're looking at the needs of the entire community in a much more comprehensive and holistic way. Talk to a little bit, how do you balance that and to ensure that our education and our education system is also receiving the resources that they need?
Okay, so basically the county is responsible for the education of all students in Shelby County. And there is an ADA requirement. When we look at it, SCS will get about 78% of those dollars, and the other municipals will get 22% of those dollars. And we basically, how we set that up is through the property tax rate. There are about 4 different buckets that the money comes out of. So you have property taxes, you have the wheel tax, which is 100% of that goes to school. Delinquent property tax, that's basically when people didn't pay their taxes in the previous year, then they pay it, then that money, a share of that money goes back into to fund the schools.
Got it.
And lastly, sales tax.
Okay, help me understand, you mentioned the wheel tax. Can you expand a little bit on that one?
Okay, so the wheel tax, since I've been on the commission, we changed how that money was being utilized as it relates to school. Originally, it was set up to, where it started out as air conditioning for the schools, but it's been an ongoing tax And so now we've set that up that 100% goes to operations in the school. That's roughly anywhere between $35 to $37 million annually that we collect for the wheel tax.
Got it. Mr. Caldwell, help me understand and help our audience understand, how do you collaborate with Commissioner Jones and other commissioners within the county commission to ensure that that you're voicing and really representing your constituents and really the school board as a whole, to make sure that they also understand what are all of the needs that we need within our education system to ensure that they're supporting us?
Well, obviously, you know, I reach out on a one-to-one basis with commissioners just to see what their concerns are and try to inform them of what we're thinking about. I invited Commissioner Burgess and Commissioner Brooks, and they showed up at the budget committee meeting for the community Tuesday.
Okay.
So it's just a back and forth, and you know, with Eddie, you know, since we've been such good friends, it's really been an easy collaboration. And you know, we talk at night on the phone, and you know, you know, he kind of gives me a sense of where the commission might be, and I kind of tell him what, you know, what we as a board are looking at and where we stand and what we really need. And so we're good friends, but at the same time we both realize that we have roles to play, and ours is to advocate for the school system, and as you alluded to earlier, is to advocate for the overall community. But I feel really good that we have a very, very strong public education advocate in Commissioner Jones. And he's been that way, as he said, you know, since I've known him, and you know, since his kids have been in school.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Also, the school board and the district, it's making some very large investments this year. And I know that over the last few years, that was not always the case. But this year in particular, you're investing about $66.2 million in different priorities. Could you describe a little bit of what those are?
Well, you know, it's a laundry list. You know, we've looked at adding more, you know, cameras and resource officers in the buildings, and then also at the same time, in-school suspensionists, other things that address, you know, some of the needs that the kids have. We've talked about, you know, more resources for teachers and students. We've talked about, you know, trying to improve the physical buildings. So there are quite a few things that come into that $66 million. And we've also in that talked about, as a school board, spending down our fund balance more than we have in the past. This has been something that the county commission has asked us to do. And so we're looking at this budget season as a way to try to accommodate them and work with them so that, you know, we can really do what's right for the students, and which you know, and that follows that that's really what's in the best interest of the community.
Mr. Jones, and also through the process, because you're a parent, so obviously you have a somewhat of like a stronger stake in the process. But I'm interested to know, how does that conversation happen with the rest of you commissioners, from the collaboration that you have with Mr. Caldwell and from the rest of the board members, to ensure that they also see as much of the value that we have investing in our school system as you do? Right.
Well, a lot of the commissioners have kids that are in the system. Some don't. However, we have conversations when we look at the school's budget and what they want to do, what their ask is, and then to look at the revenue that is generated for schools to see, okay, how can we accommodate them? Actually, there's another bucket that I didn't even talk about when we mentioned earlier, is CIP. And that takes care of if the deferred maintenance on the buildings, the school buildings. Generally, we've been given about $55 million annually for that, but I think the district wants to build a couple of new schools. So we don't know what that ask will be for this year, but it actually, what they're doing is shrinking their footprint. You got two schools, I'll give you an example, and they're actually in my commission district, Goodley and Knight Road. To and the FCI on those buildings, the Facilities Condition Index, and being underutilized.
Right.
They're going to demolish both of those and build one school, and they're just a block away from each other. And so you're not displacing anybody out of the area. It's those type of things that when the district does that, it helps with the funding, because now you're able to free up more resources, because I'm not spending so much on deferred maintenance for 2 old buildings. I got a new building, and so that works out pretty good. So I love doing what I do. It's easy when you set the tax rate just right, that money is available to go into those schools to do what is needed to educate our children.
And thank you so much for mentioning that, because that is something that we've consistently heard with our parents in our community meetings, that there is a need for us to be able to provide a more updated and a better learning environment for all of our children. So that's actually really good to know that the county commissioner also sees that as a priority, and there's actually a lot of efforts being done in order to make that happen. The last question I got, and you have lots of probably tips and ideas, is how do we get our families, or how can community members get more involved in general, but also through this budget process? And I'll toss it to both of you, because you're both experts in that area.
So I'll talk about it from the school district side. And so they can come down to the county commissioner, and he can speak to that, about how that really does impact the decisions that are made on the county commission. I think the other thing is they can also email or reach out to county commissioners and really just try to help them understand that there is a lot of desire, because that's where there's an overlap. They're constituents for both Shelby County School Board members and Shelby County commissioners. And I think also that the county commission and the county in general benefits if we are properly funded, because it really, public education is a strategic investment, because it touches so many things. It touches poverty, crime, tax revenues, being able to attract new businesses because you have an educated workforce. And so all these things work together, and they would actually accelerate the growth of the economy and tax revenues, which would then allow everybody to split a bigger pie. So, and there's really not any other place that you can make one investment that has so many tentacles in the community and could address these problems. And being a lifelong Memphian, these are things that our community has struggled with. And if we can get behind that, I think the potential for our community, our county, is unlimited.
That's great.
And since Chris said it all, he took a lot of my words, and he's absolutely correct on that. But what I would say to the citizens, you need to come down to our meetings. Let your voice be heard and advocate. After all, every elected official up there, to every voter, you're the boss. Tell us what you want, how you want it, and then we as the elected body, knowing what those numbers are and how we can make happen what they want. We may not always get all the way there, but we can move that needle forward, pushing towards the goals that they want to see, and that it makes proper sense for us to do it in that manner.
And then particularly for the school district budget, you're going to be doing the presentation to the county commission on May 30th.
Yes.
So we'll be sure to share that information with all of our audience. And I know that also as part of that process, you're also doing a series of community meetings. So really it's an opportunity for family members, community members, everybody to just share their voices through the multiple channels that are offered, like you mentioned, through email, through social media, attending the county commission meetings. So really there's an opportunity to share that message through different avenues. So I thank you both for your time. Thank you, Mr. Caldwell. You're a regular here at C19, so we appreciate you. And of course, Mr. Jones, thank you so much. This is tu casa, mi casa, tu casa, and we're glad to have you here.
All right, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for watching today's Budget Talk. To watch the full series, visit thevoiceofses.com.